Good morning. This is February 28th, 2025. This is my very first video, and I'm just posting as a public service announcement. I am a psychic and a card reader, and I had gotten some information on the state of the United States and what's going on right now. I know it's very scary and very uncertain, but I thought I would share my insights. A while ago, I had a vision. I'm a clairvoyant, so I see images, and the vision was of the earth churning like the surface of the sun. It was just, the ground was just kind of like boiling up and everything, and that, I believe, is all the unrest going on right now. I mean, that's obvious. And then the next thing I saw was a SWAT team. It was like the black vehicles that you see, the SWAT team, surrounding Capitol Hill. And, saying, come out with your hands up, kind of like the SWAT team does. And I believe that is our government, or our people rising up. Of course, a lot of images you get when you're clairvoyant are symbolic. So I don't know if there'd be actual black SWAT team vehicles coming in on them, or if it was just, the symbol of somewhere from the outside of the federal government coming in and saying, that's it, the gig's up, you're over, and everything else. And then I did a psychic, or a card reading of the cards, and this is what I got. This isn't one I'm doing right now, but it's what I got. The first card I pulled was the Justice card, and of course that makes sense with all these court orders and court cases going on. He's losing, but of course they say they're not going to honor the courts, which is why everybody's screaming we are in a constitutional crisis, because the enforcement is under Trump and the executive branch. So the judge can, write the order and say, do this, and we don't know if it's going to be enforced. And that's the biggest concern right now. So far, they haven't enforced any of these court orders, or haven't even abided by any of these court orders. So yes, the justice is working on this. Now the next card I pulled is the blank. Tarot card decks, some of them have blanks in it. And to me, this represents unseen things, things that you can't see. It's opaque, you can't see anything. And that to me represents things going on below the surface, behind the scenes. We know that Doge is obviously not, they're very opaque, they're not transparent, but I also think that there's other things being planned in secret to stop this. And of course, when they do an investigation of a place to finally take it down, a criminal ring or something, they don't come out and say, hey, we're going to take this criminal ring down. They infiltrate it, and then all of a sudden, boom, they come in and take it. And I think it's that kind of thing that we're going to see. The next card I got is the Five of Pentacles, or coins. And of course, that symbolizes being out in the cold. So I think what's going to happen with this vision is that they're going to be surrounded and kind of cut off and left out in the cold. And the next card I got was the Sun reversed. Now, this is not a bad card, but what I'm seeing is the sun is setting. That makes sense to me. The sun is setting on this administration. And then finally, as you guessed it, the Tower card. Total destruction. Total destruction. And then another vision I got, not all at the same time, but another vision I got was Capitol Hill looked like it had an attic fire. All the tops of the buildings were burnt, but the walls and the foundations were still there. So, yeah, there's going to be destruction in Capitol Hill, but it's going to be rebuildable. And that's important to know, that yes, it's going to be destruction, and it's going to be rebuildable, so that there is hope that we can rebuild things. It won't be the same, but it shouldn't be the same. You've got to understand this had to happen, because it wasn't working. We were stalemated, we were locked. People, there's homeless problems, there is people just aren't being paid enough. We have a very top-heavy economy, and as history shows you, there is always destruction when a system isn't working anymore. We saw that with the Russian Revolution, the French Revolution, and the Americans, of course, revolted against the King of England. When things aren't working anymore, this had to happen. And I'm not saying that it's good, especially if you're directly affected by this. It's, horrible. You lose your job. A lot of people, a lot of uncertainty, but something had to give. Unfortunately, this is how it played out. But ultimately will be okay. And that's what I keep getting with these images and the card readings. So, remember, if younger people probably haven't heard this as much as my generation, but back in the 30s, with the Great Depression, things were really bad. You had Hoover was in charge. He was more in the 20s, but Hoover was in charge, and you had homeless camps, one of them called Hooverville, but they looked like something out of a third world country. People were living in corrugated tin shacks, any scraps. They basically built these shacks out of scraps. I mean, even Slab City, if you've heard of that, that's in California. It's a community of people who are living out of RVs and whatever. Even that looked luxurious compared to Hooverville. It looked like something out of Haiti. Just horrible, miserable poverty. And fortunately, we got FDR come into office, and instead of having a dictator or a horrible person, we did get FDR, and of course FDR had to deal with something that very few presidents had to deal with. He had a horrible economy, and then we were at war. Pearl Harbor was bombed, so we actually had an attack on U.S. soil, and he had a horrendous thing to clean up. But one thing he did say was that all we have to fear is fear itself. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't seem to make sense. I mean, we were at war, people were poor. It's like, all we have to fear is fear itself. What is that supposed to mean? Well, what it really means is, don't succumb to the fear. They want you to be afraid. They want you to be scared. They want you to feel helpless. I mean, this whole thing was not done overnight. They'd planned this. And if you don't be afraid, but say, I'm not going to put up with it, then you can do something about it. What everybody needs to do, you're like, what can I do? What can I do? A lot of people are asking that. I'm asking that. But the one thing I understand is, go to your intuition, go to your internal sense and say, okay, this is not acceptable. I refuse to be scared. I refuse to let them make me feel helpless, and just kind of relax and go within and put out the energy of, we're going to get through this, we're going to remain strong. So even if there's nothing you can do, if you just don't put out fear, because as you know, what you think about, what you focus on is what comes out. So if all of us are sitting there and saying, no, I'm not going to let them tear this down, it's going to be okay, we're going to build it back better, then that energy will come out instead of cowering and being in fear. So I hope this has helped you. There's a lot of other psychics out there that are professionals and do this all the time, and they're saying similar things. Go ahead and watch them. But I just wanted to put this out to let everybody know that we will get through this, we will be okay, we will prevail, and it will be rebuilt. And thank you for taking the time to listen to this.